When it comes to making your video lessons, there's so many options. And we realize that teachers do not have the time to explore everything. And that's what we're going to talk today on the Teach Bigger podcast is that quality matters. And we're going to give you a place to start if you're looking to up your game.
Welcome to the Teach Bigger podcast. I'm Chris Pratt.
I'm Tyler Lamond.
And we want to give you some detailed ideas today of where you can get started if you're wanting to make the quality of your online delivery just a little bit better. We realize that not everybody's a techie. You know, Tyler and I, we're kind of tech nerds, but at the same time, everybody may not be there. So we're not going to dive into the waters extremely deeply. However, we are going to make sure that when you walk away from today's episode, you feel like if you want to make some changes, you have the tools to do it.
Right, because all the technology options and stuff, it can be overwhelming. And if you're looking to, you're the teacher, like you don't care about audio interfaces. You don't care about like getting a digital camera that's $1,400. Like that's not what you're wanting. You're wanting to just up your game for the best quality that you can get without breaking the bank. And that's what we're talking about is just upping your game just a little bit and adding external things. So like if you're fed up with using the internal built-in webcam that's maybe on your laptop, or maybe you're tired of using your phone, something like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to talk about first we're going to talk about computers and platforms. And these things are really flexible. You can use laptops. Maybe your laptop doesn't have a webcam, or maybe you're using a Chromebook that does. Okay, maybe you're using a desktop that doesn't, and you need a external one. Maybe you're using your smartphone. It doesn't matter. All these things can work.
Yeah. So the thing about your computer or whatever your major device is that you're using to create. A lot of us, it's provided by our school districts. Maybe it's something that you've invested in. But at the end of the day, as long as it has the ability to stream, you're okay. And so that could be anything from a smartphone to a desktop to a laptop, an iPad, whatever the case may be. So we've kind of done an overview here of what most people are using, and we want to try to make this as general as we can. Of course, there's always specifics. But one thing to consider is just making sure that you have a device that's going to run properly. And I think that at this point in day and age, in most of our school districts, we've been provided that. So I think that's a green light. But the next thing that you've got to really consider is what is your platform that you're using to deliver your instruction. Again, this is oftentimes dictated by your district, whether your district's like a Google district, or maybe you use a learning management system like Canvas or Schoology or Blackboard. A lot of that's already been determined. So that's something to consider of how that operates for you. And what maybe some of the limitations might be. Like, for example, in my district, we're a Google district and we use Google Chromebooks. And so it's kind of challenging if I use only the district provided equipment to get everything done that I need, because there's a lot of limitations when it comes to something like Chromebook. But at the same time, if that's what you're dealing with, you just have to kind of understand that platform and what you're able to do with it, because you can certainly still get everything done. And so we're gonna definitely cover those things. I would say that, and Tyler, you can say if you have a different idea, but I would say if you're given the option to use whatever you want, and you're looking for the best free platform, I definitely think that the Google Suite is the way to go with this. It provides the most bang for your free buck, because you can get a Google account for free, and it really gives you access to everything from word processing all the way to spreadsheets to PowerPoint presentations, you name it.
Well, and I'll tack on this is that you don't necessarily need the suite function, because the suite function costs money.
Right.
You can, because thanks to COVID, Google found public uses for a lot of their things that were suite exclusive, and now you just need a normal Google account, and you have access to Google Meets. You have access to Currents. You have access to just about everything you have access to from Meets. Now you have access to it in limited quantities, but for what you're trying to do in your classroom, I think that it'll be suitable for what you need.
Yeah. So let's just talk real quick about the two major, I guess we could say the two major players when it comes to live streaming for your classroom.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously Google Meets if you're using the Google suite. So Google Meets is basically like a conferencing tool. And then a lot of folks are also using Zoom. And due to COVID right now, Zoom is also free for educators as well. So you can
Mm-hmm.
get a whole lot of miles out of those two platforms. Some people use Microsoft Teams and different things like that, and all of it's fine. But I would say definitely Google and Zoom are the two most popular free platforms. If you're curious about how to use those platforms, we do have some training videos that are either already on our YouTube channel, Teach Bigger, or also maybe be coming out here in the next few weeks. So be checking those things out. So the next thing we need to really consider that I think makes a tremendous difference in the quality of your lesson delivery. And let's kind of stop for a second and maybe Tyler, we can give a little bit of insight into what kind of brought this up. So, our students, they consume a whole lot of digital media, right? I would be surprised to find that there's not a child in public education that is not currently watching YouTube in some form or fashion. I'm sure somebody's out there, but it's far and few in between.
Mm-hmm.
And so kids are getting used to getting their information. Did you know that YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world? So that means that pretty much when people decide like I need to know something, they go to YouTube, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think the next one is Google. So they're either going to Google or YouTube, and 9 times out of 10 when you type it into Google, YouTube pops up, right?
Yeah.
So this is how people are growing accustomed to receiving information. And now as educators, in a way, we are sort of competing with that now that we're on a digital platform. Before there was no competition. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I would say that we're not necessarily competing with it, but there's a standard that kids kind of hold, because like there's a certain standard of, I hate to say dull, but like when you walk into an elementary school, especially one that was like built in, I don't know, the late 90s,
80s.
maybe the 80s, like there's a smell. You know what I'm talking about? You like walk in and you're just like, yep, this is a school. You know what I mean?
I don't, yeah, I do. And I
Yeah.
don't know that it was even takes us back that far. It might be like the early 2000s.
Yeah, like there's like you can kind of smell, and like when you walk into a school cafeteria, you can smell it and you're just like, yep, this is a cafeteria. And you know exactly what to expect. You know what the water is going to taste like, you know what the food is going to be like. Like you kind of have an understanding of what it is. Like when I look at a lesson, I like in my mind these videos, I'm thinking like overhead projectors. Like that's the type of quality that I'm expecting when I watch like a YouTube video or something of an educator. You know what I'm saying? But when I watch a YouTube video of like somebody who isn't a educator per se, but maybe it's a tutorial video, the quality is way higher. The engagement is way higher. The person is more is funny. They have me for that 10 minutes, whatever I'm watching, or that 30 minutes or like whatever it is. And I think what it really is that the standard of what a video is higher than what we would normally produce. And I'm not saying what we produce is bad. I'm just saying what is produced on the daily is actually pretty good and pretty high, because these things are so easily accessible. Like being able to produce things in HD is accessible. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. So I think that's something we have to consider, because when students come to digital learning and they come to online learning, whether it's flipped instruction or synchronous or asynchronous, there's like this expectation in their mind that they're fixing to encounter the same thing they would on YouTube. And a lot of times I think we lose them in the first 30 seconds because it's not what they were expecting. It's suddenly I'm looking at a PowerPoint presentation, or suddenly I'm looking at like some teacher in a really dark room and a really fuzzy camera, and I can't really hear them very well. And so there's a lot of battles that we're fighting because they can just type in your content on YouTube and find someone really entertaining talking about it. And I mean, in a way that's good because they're getting the information. Hopefully it's correct information, but at the same time, they're not getting it from you. And that's where the disconnect becomes, because, school is more than just content. It's community. And so we have to make sure we're building that community. And a way to do it is to be able to deliver ourselves in a way that gets the kids to latch a hold of what we're talking about.
And I also think that maybe it's even the opposite as well too. Maybe they're getting on and they're not, maybe they are expecting like this higher level because that's what they're used to, like when they're watching these videos or whatever. Or maybe because it's school, they're already checked out because they know that there's no way that you're going to have the same quality that XMR does when I watch his meme review
Mm-hmm.
or whatever. And if you do, then you're going to stop your students in your tracks, and they're
Yeah.
going to be like, what? And I know for a fact that happened to me because my students were like, well, these videos are like personal to us. And I was like, yeah, they are. They're like, you have like an intro and an outro. I'm like, yeah, I do. They're like, I kind of like that. Like, that's pretty cool that our class does that, you
Mm-hmm.
know, kind of thing like that. And it seems crazy, but it actually isn't. And it really all starts with your camera.
Yeah.
And this is probably the best thing that you can invest in my personal opinion, is having a good camera, because you're going to be doing a lot of teaching to the camera, so you need to make sure that people can physically see what's happening. And built-in cameras, they will work, but if you're looking to up your game, then this is what you need: to set up some type of external USB camera, webcam. Okay. And I know that it can be really kind of crazy out there looking at all the different webcams, and there's really cheap ones and there's mega expensive ones. This is what you're looking for. You're looking for something that shoots in 720. 720 is the lowest form of HD. Okay. Now, if you see something that says FPS, that stands for frames per second. Okay. Now, the standard frames per second, just so you know, is 24 frames per second, and that's cinematic movies. Okay. And they sell 720 quality HD 720 pixels and 30 frames per second. And you can get a webcam as cheap as $40.
Yeah.
That's the Logitech HD webcam C270. It comes in different colors, and it's $40.
Now,
And if you go for it.
no, one thing to mention about that, like, because I mean, everybody's always talking about like, HD 1080p, right? And the thing is, yeah, if you want to spend money and buy a 1080p camera, you absolutely can. And it has to do with the size of the frame that you're looking at. Okay.
Mhm.
But 720 is going to still give you that high quality, and you can usually get those things a little bit cheaper. You're going to find that most webcams do work at 30 frames per second. 30 frames per second is simply like, it's the quality that you see on television. Okay.
Yes.
So that's kind of that true feel. It kind of it feels like life. So 30 frames per
Normal.
second is normally what it's going to kind of feel like. So this, if you're using like a smartphone, this is probably what your phone is recording in. So it's that smartphone
Default.
feel. Yeah, by default. So, again, if you're not going to use a webcam, then use your smartphone. And then that's a great way to go as well.
Yes. And the second one, if you're looking for one that's a little bit higher than $40, the Razer Kiyo,
Mm-hmm.
Kiyo. I don't know if I said that correctly. Webcam. It's about $99, and it has a built-in light ring into it. If you watched the second season of our podcast on YouTube, we recorded it via webcam during the quarantine. My quality of video, that was shot through well, toward the end of the season is when I actually got my webcam, and it was shot with that. So that will kind of give you a little bit of a dose of like what that does. And it shoots in 720 30 frames per second. And I got it with the what makes this cool and why it's about $100 is because it has like this little light ring around it, and that's built in. And with my room that I had in my old house, I really, really needed that because the lighting was just terrible and you couldn't see anything. Even though I was getting a good quality shot, because the lighting was bad in my room, it was coming out blurry and fuzzy. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about lighting. Um, the next step up, and this will be the last one we talk about, is the Logitech C922 Pro Stream webcam, and it's $120, and that shoots, I believe, in 1080p, 60 frames per second. Now it has all the other ones. Like if you want to knock it down, you totally can. But that's why that one is 120, because it shoots in a little bit higher. So just so you know, the three webcams that I would recommend is, the first one is the Logitech HD webcam C270, $40, give or take, on Amazon or Walmart or whatever. The the second one is Razer Kaio webcam, $100, and it has a built-in little ring, a little light ring. And the third one is the Logitech C922 Pro Stream webcam, 120. Now, any of these will work. Any of these will work. All you have to do is plug the USB in, and you're ready to go. You might need to go into the settings of Google Meet or into whatever, so that way, and switch over and say, I want you to use this webcam. But other than that, it should just immediately work.
Yeah, and you're
You
going
got
to
any?
notice a big difference whenever you do this compared to your built-in webcam on your computer. You're going to notice that you've stepped up, and your kids will notice too. I remember I was using a external camera, and I was in a Zoom meeting once with colleagues, and they were like, "Oh man, your camera looks great." I was like, "Thanks." So people notice. People definitely notice.
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate, like, I don't really want to bag on our public schools, but public schools are kind of known for being poor,
Right.
or not having the equipment that they need, or that schools are always fighting to get the equipment that they need. And maybe some schools, I know that there are some out there that do have it, and maybe that's why there's like a pre-notion that you're not going to have, from your students, that you're not going to have good quality videos, because schools don't normally do stuff like that. Schools normally just kind of make do with what they're able to get. And I don't know, maybe we can talk more about that later. But I don't know, you got anything else on that?
Yeah. No, I mean, I would just say if you're looking to make an improvement to your delivery, then this is a place to start. Okay. Next place to consider is in your audio. And if you think about it, it doesn't matter how great your video is. If your students can't understand you or hear you very well, or it's fuzzy, or there's white noise, then they're not getting the information, right? So
Mm-hmm.
equally important is your audio, okay? So there's two routes that you can go with audio, okay? The first way is a little more complicated, but it gets you a stronger result, is to use an interface, okay? Which would be like a little external box that you can plug basically a microphone cable into. But this requires a little bit more of a setup, and so we're not going to talk too much about that, but just want to make you aware that that is an option. But the easiest option is to buy an external microphone that connects with a USB cable. Okay, and there are lots of options out there. You can definitely get a high quality USB microphone for under $100, and
Mm-hmm.
it gives you the ability to really control the quality of your audio. Okay, even if it's just your voice, because this is the thing that makes the biggest connection with your students, is to hear your voice. We've talked about in previous episodes, like, a best practice is whenever kids are coming in the room, they should hear your voice. It's your class, they need to hear your voice. It sets the pace for the day, it sets the tone. And it's the same thing on your online instruction. Kids need to be able to hear you clearly, and they need to be able to relate the content to you, because you are the face of that content.
Yeah, and the three best USB microphones that I can say. And now look, if you're wondering, okay, well then what's the difference between an XLR or like using a cable, like a vocal cable, like a mic cable,
Uh-huh.
versus a USB? It all has to do with how information transfers. You don't really need to worry about that, because the quality of the difference of how information is transferring isn't going to matter with you just teaching a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
That difference mainly matters when it comes to recording instruments, which, unless you're a music teacher, isn't really going to be an issue. So the three best USB microphones that we personally think that are out there is, number one is called the Snowball Black Ice USB microphone. Now it also comes in white. That's why it's called the Black Ice. I think it comes in white. It's called the White Ice, and I think it even comes in one other color. I can't remember, but it's the Snowball Black Ice USB microphone, and that comes in at $50.
And that's from
And
the company on that is called Blue, BLUE. That's the company for that.
yes,
Okay.
BL. No, I think it's just BLU. I don't think it's is there an E?
I think so. I think I just looked it up and there was.
Okay. But it's called Blue. It's the Blue Snowball Black Ice USB microphone, $50. And this is what a lot of streamers use on Twitch and on YouTube because it gets good quality sound and it's $50 and you literally just plug it in and it works. Now, the second one is the Razer Siren, sorry, X condenser microphone, professional grade streaming microphone. Okay, it's $70, and you might be thinking, okay, well, what's a condenser microphone? Don't really worry too much about that. All these are condenser microphones. That just means that it's going to pick up all the ambience in the room. You don't really need to worry about that. All you need to know is that it's going to record really, really well, and it's a USB microphone, and it's $70. I personally have never used this microphone, but I know people who have, and I've seen recordings of it with streamers because there's one streamer in particular that I do watch that uses this, and she sounds like she's like sitting right next to me. It sounds really good.
Yeah. So then the
And
last one to consider is also made by the company Blue. They kind of have a pretty good monopoly on this product. It's called the Yeti Microphone, and currently probably the most popular model is the Blackout. But it's a little more expensive. It's $130, but I personally own this microphone, and I will vouch that it is a really great microphone. I've never had a problem with it. It's super easy. It's just you plug it in and go. But what's great is you can adjust like volume settings on the microphone, and it also has like 4 or 5 different recording modes that give you the opportunity to determine, like, for example, let's say you were going to do an interview with someone and you were going to sit across from each other at a table. A normal microphone is only going to pick up one of those voices, but this one has the option to do it like double-sided to where you could hear both people talking at the same time. So it gives you some good options, super easy, and it has a mute button, which is really great if you just want to be able to mute real quick, for whatever reason, and then move forward. So that's the Blue Yeti.
and just so that you know, this is the microphone before, like way before COVID happened. I think it was like a year or two ago, when Pratt was still a band director. He used to use this microphone to record his band and play it back to them, so that way they could get immediate feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So that should tell you the type of quality that you're going to get with this type of microphone. It is a little bit more expensive. It comes with a few more bells and whistles. You're able to mute. You're able to make it double-sided. There's a lot of things in there that might fit what you need. But to go back over the 3 microphones that are there is the Blue Snowball Black Ice USB microphone, $50. The Ryzen Siren X, which is $70. Or Razer, sorry, I read that wrong both times I read that. Okay, and the Blue Yeti Blackout microphone, which is $130. So that gives you 3 kind of viable options depending on how many bells and whistles you want, or if you want just bare bones type of deal. Again, these are just USB microphones. You plug them in and they should just immediately work.
Yep. All right, so moving on, next thing to consider is lighting, okay? And look, we get it, you're not creating like this movie studio at your house or whatever, but a lot of times the normal lighting we have in our house causes problems for us. And again, it's the thing we just discussed with the audio. If the kids can't see you well, or you're like really fleshed out and like you're super bright and glowing, like whatever the case may be, it's a distraction to the learning environment. Okay. And so if you're experiencing that and you're like, you know what, I'm willing to invest a little bit of money to make this, because I mean, for some of us, this is our new normal right now. Like, in other words, I'm teaching online 5 days a week. All my kids are at home, and I'm having to do flipped instruction or synchronous or asynchronous instruction. And this is the way they're encountering me. It is worth my effort to spend $100 to make this right. Okay. And so that's what we're hopefully doing today, is just giving you some considerations. Okay. But I would really say, like, for the most part, if you go on Amazon and type in lighting kit, you're going to see a whole lot of options that are going to really help you. So Tyler will go over a few that we've kind of discovered, but the main idea here is that you have an adjustable light. Okay. Most of them have the function to dim or not, and it's going to just soften up the look of the room so that you don't have a hard light coming on you from, like, either your ceiling fan or whatever the case may be.
Yeah, and this is something that actually just popped in my head is it can be as simple as just going out and getting a different light bulb for the room that you're recording in.
Sometimes
Uh
that works.
yeah. The room that I'm in currently, I was trying to record a lot of YouTube videos and stuff, and the room, like I was just yellow. And I was like, I don't understand. Like, why do I look like I'm in a country western movie? Like, I don't get it. Well, it's because I had yellow lights. When you go and buy light bulbs, you can choose the color. It's like cool, or it says warm, and it's like yellowish. You want a cool light, which is going to give off that LED type of blue. It's really, really bright. Some people really hate it because they say it's too bright, that it's fluorescent, and they don't like it or whatever. But that's going to pick up you very, very well. And that sometimes that can get as cheap as like 15 bucks, or $10 getting another light bulb. But if you want something else, or maybe you're recording on your phone, there's something called the Bower clip-on LED light ring white. Okay. Now white just means that the ring itself is colored white, not the actual light bulb. Okay. And that's only $10. And this is what a lot of TikTokers use. They just connect it to their phone, and then they talk into it, and then it looks like they have professional recordings going on because their phone is already recording in HD, and then now they have really good lighting going on as well.
And
Okay.
I would just interject this, like, the one thing to realize, because I've worked with a lot of video, okay, and one thing to realize is this: the number one key to making your video look good. It doesn't matter how great your camera is. If you have bad lighting, you're going to look bad. You have to really consider your lighting. If things are not well lit, you can't fix that problem. You have to light them correctly. Okay. So, for $10, that is going to make a big difference for you. Okay. Also,
That's true.
yeah. And so also, if you're looking to spend like a little bit more, for 35 bucks, like on Amazon, you can find the newer tabletop light stand clip. It's a similar thing, except it actually clips to your desk, right? So maybe you're in more of a desktop situation where this is more conducive and it makes it easier. So, both of those are great options.
Well, and I'll go ahead and say this, like, for those of you who don't know, Pratt records, like, whenever we are in a like we record our podcast through a Google Meet. Sometimes we do it through Zoom. And he records using a, what is it, like a $1,500 camera that shoots in 4K. What kind of camera do you have?
Yeah,
Like, it's something ridiculous,
I
right?
wish it was only
And right
1,500,
now
but
he
yeah.
looks like a ghost, and he looks really bad because of his lighting. Like, he's got like this $1,400 camera, and it's not shooting very well, even though it's shooting in like 1080p, and it's all because of the lighting in his room. So keep that in mind. The third option is the eMart LED Video Light 11 brightness, and it's $50. Now this one's on Amazon, and it's really cool because it comes with two, and these are full on stands that they're tripods, and they stand up from the ground. I think they go about 6, maybe 7 feet up into the air, and there's two of them. And this is good if you're trying to maybe really teach something that's going on in the classroom. Maybe you're not just behind your desk. Maybe you're trying to demonstrate something,
Yep.
and you're trying to record it that way. So you have three versions, or three different recommendations from us. The first one is the Bower clip-on LED ring light, which clips onto your cell phone, and it's really meant to just clip on your cell phone. But I would imagine that it would also clip onto a computer screen as well, and that's $10. You have the newer tabletop light stand that clips onto the actual desk, and that's $35. Also note that the newer tabletop light stand light is probably 2 times the diameter of the other light ring that clips onto your phone. Okay, so it's also a little bit bigger. And then the eMart LED light 11 brightness is $50, and it comes with two, and those aren't actually light rings. Those are actually little box lights that are sets of LED lights. And I personally have never used this specific one, but I've used LED box lights before, and they come with little shields that can adjust the lighting, and they work really, really, really well.
Yeah. And another thing to consider, because all this stuff has been under $50, which is really, for the most part affordable. If you want to spend a little bit more, one route that you could go is to buy a lighting kit. Okay. And when you buy a lighting kit, a lot of times between 50 and $100, not only will you get 2 or 3 lights to use, it will come with some backdrops. Okay. Usually it'll come with a white, black, and green screen backdrop. I think it is worth the extra 25 to $50 to get this kit, simply because it kind of gives you a really easy way to get that professional look. So for example, I don't have to make sure that my entire house is clean every time I do a video. All I have to do is throw up the black screen behind me, and now I'm teaching my lesson in front of a black screen or a white screen. If you're someone that wants to go a little deeper and do in front of a green screen, the purpose of that is you can then remove that and replace it with a fun background. So I know Zoom gives you this option as well. You don't have to have a green screen to do it in Zoom, but when you do have a green screen, it makes it a little bit cleaner and clearer, and it makes the process a little bit easier. So for just a few bucks more, you can actually get that added bonus, which in a lot of ways is definitely worth it, because it makes it where you always have that consistent professional look behind you.
Now, I'll also say for my elementary teachers out there who aren't trying to look, I don't want to say not look professional, but they're trying to look more warm and welcome. You can get creative with it. Like, go out and get a curtain.
Yeah.
Go out and get some type of school curtain, something that, like, basically whatever you would think that you would like a staple onto your bulletin board.
Yeah.
You can get a big one of those and hang that up behind you. And it can be very school, very, very elementary, very magic school bus. And then now you look like the cool fun teacher because you always have this cool background behind you.
And for sure, the kids notice.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be technology.
And look, let me say something. I don't think that's just elementary school. I think that could go for middle school and high school as well. So, there's a lot of creative options out there that you can be thinking about. So, okay, let's move on to this last idea, okay? Once you've got all this done, now we're going to kind of dive in a little bit more into the flipped instruction part of things. Okay, this isn't necessarily what you would do live, like in a Google Meet, or what you would do live in a Zoom Meet, but this would be like if you're creating a lesson for kids to view, whether you want them to watch that and then interject within a live session, or maybe it's just straight up flipped instruction where they're watching and then they come back in a large group to discuss or do an activity. You're going to need to be able to edit your video. Okay. So video editing software is really important when it comes to upping your game in online content delivery, because it's going to make it where, first of all, you don't have any mistakes. You can get rid of the problems easily. The other thing that you're going to be able to do is take out dead time. As a teacher, sometimes we're delivering instruction and we have to kind of stop and think and gather our thoughts and like organize and whatever. And so if I edit that out, then boom, I go straight from A to B and the kids don't see any of that. And I really appreciate that when it comes to flipped instruction, because I feel like that I don't have to have that pressure of being perfect, that I can fix it on the go. So there are a lot of free options when it comes to video editing equipment. And for the most part, it's super easy. The process just works like this. You take the video that you created, you can drag it into the platform, and then it gives you the option to cut it. And you splice it up, and you can delete sections you don't want or shorten them, and then put them all back together again. And that's the whole idea of video editing. It's not a very difficult process, and almost every one of these software programs are super user-friendly. It's like you kind of just do it the way you would think you would do it. They're very intuitive in that. So the first thing, let's look at some free options. And in a lot of cases, the free options are really not any worse than the paid options. They may just have a little bit more of a limited set of tools, okay? But the first one is, if you are a Mac user, if you use Mac computers, you have two things already built into your Mac computer. One is Quicktime, okay? And Quicktime is a video platform where you can record yourself. Now, Quicktime doesn't let you edit, but it does let you record yourself. The only drawback to Quicktime is it will not allow you to do a screen capture, so where you're video recording your screen and your voice at the same time. Okay, you would have to do those things separately. So if you're looking to do that at the same time, I think your best option is Screencastify, which is a Google Chrome extension. And this is good. Screencastify works on Mac, PC, Chromebooks, laptops, you name it, it works. So Screencastify is probably by and large the most popular of the free options. It does allow you to video record just you as a video talking. You can video just your screen without your video camera, and you can video audio with or without your camera as well. So it gives you a whole lot of options there, and it does give you the option to edit your video. So that way, if you want to cut things out or rearrange order or whatever you want to do. Okay. Also, Tyler, I'll let you speak to Shotcut because I know that you've used that before, but that's also a free option.
Well, okay, so Shotcut is like, honestly, Shotcut's like my best friend. I'm a media teacher and I teach Adobe Premiere Pro, and I primarily use Shotcut because it's very, very easy to just drag and drop your video clips in there, cut them out, like cut whatever the dead time is. You literally just type S for I think it stands for like slice it or something like that, split, and it pieces it together, and it's very easy to drag and drop extra music in there if you want to have some music in there, and that's it. Like if that's what you're doing with your lessons, you recorded all these little clips and you want to piece them and splice them together and cut out the dead time, it's absolutely perfect. And if you want to see what Shotcut is capable of doing, then I have two YouTube channels. One is Paradiddle Pete. That's Paradiddlepate, or yeah, Pete. And every video on that channel was edited in with Shotcut. And then I have another YouTube channel that's Tapping with Tyler, TappinWithTyler, and every video on there has been edited by Shotcut. So you can really see like how easy it is, how versatile it is. And it's kind of my go-to for all of my lessons. So that way I don't have to boot up this really huge program.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then I guess the last thing to consider is if you are an Apple user, a Mac user, you also have iMovie that's built in, and that allows you to edit, and it is all free. It's built in with your platform, and it's fairly user-friendly as well. It kind of does the same thing Shotcut does, but for Macs. So those are all free versions of editing software / capture software that you can use. So if we look at the paid options, my number one recommendation, and this is what I use, and honestly, this is the industry standard. People make like actual feature films using the Adobe suite. Okay. And what's really amazing is the editing software is called Adobe Premiere Pro. Okay. And that's how you go in and you can edit. Now, I will be honest, if you're not really interested in editing video, don't do this, because it is a rabbit hole of death. Like it will take you, and it is
Yes.
it is a learning curve. Like you have to really learn. But once you learn, the possibilities are endless what you can do. Like I said, I mean, like some of your favorite blockbuster movies have been edited using this very software. So I would definitely say, like, if you're someone who's kind of interested in pursuing this, this is a great investment. Now, the great thing that Adobe does is they have something called the Creative Cloud, and it's basically, you can't buy their software, you can only subscribe to it. Great way to make money, brilliant plan there. But by subscribing to it, you have access to all of their software. So that's everything from Photoshop. It gives you the ability to edit videos. It gives you the ability to record sound. It also gives you the ability to do animation. I mean, there's a ton of stuff that probably you'll never even use. I don't even use it all. But they have a special educator's price, and it's only $20 a month. I would encourage you to look into that. Also, if you're a Mac user, Final Cut Pro is kind of the Mac version of that. Although Adobe Premiere, I mean, the Adobe suite works with a Mac, so it's just a matter of preference there. And then the last one, which is also a free version that can work on a PC or a Mac, is called Davinci Resolve, and it does the same thing. And again, these are all like industry standard. People use these to make movies, but this is getting you into being able to have no limitations when you're editing video. A lot of the free things that we talked about, there are a lot of limitations, but with this, there's no limitations. And actually, Davinci Resolve has a free version. So if you're interested in trying something at a pro level for free, that's a way to go. So, being able to edit your video opens up doors of possibility for your quality and how your flow can go. So I would highly recommend you diving into that if you've never done it. But at the very least, by using Screencastify, you have the ability to rearrange your video and do some editing at a very low level. And if you haven't tried that, definitely dive in and give that a try.
Yeah. Now, the next thing is formats. And I know that formats can seem extremely intimidating, especially like if you are using Shotcut and you go hit export, it on the left-hand side of the screen, it'll just be this huge page of all of the different formats that you can export this thing to. And just so you know, like you want to just click the little thing that says YouTube and just click the little YouTube button and hit export. Because that's going to export as a MP4. Now, the four things that you're going to run into all the time, and the two main ones that you need to make sure that you have, is MP3 for audio. This is the smallest form. There might be a smaller form of it, but this is the most condensed down form of audio that's there. And you might be thinking, okay, well, how small we're talking? How condensed down is that going to get? Any music you listen to on your iPod, any music you listen to on Spotify, 9 times out of 10 is an MP3 format. And actually, I can almost say that every song that you buy off of iTunes is an MP3 format. So although it is the most condensed down version of it, it is really it's still really good quality. Now, the second one that you need is MP4. The difference between an MP3 and an MP4 is one is just audio and one is video and audio. Okay. And that is your standard video and audio format. That is what 90% of everything that is on YouTube is. Actually, I'm not even sure if you can upload something that's not an MP4 onto YouTube. I don't know. I've never tried. That's why in Shotcut, when you go to export, it says YouTube. Like it's just telling you, hey, this is YouTube. This is the MP4. This is going to be the version that's going to be the most versatile to upload to Canvas or Schoology or any of those. Now there are other two. There's one that's called a WAV file. This is the larger, if not the largest and most highest quality of audio. And to put it in perspective, I think that one song of an MP3 file is roughly like 1 or 2 megabytes. But one song that is like in a waveform file, I think is pushing somewhere around 50, maybe 120 megabytes. Like point is that it's significantly bigger. Don't quote me on those numbers, but it's significantly bigger. Um, Now the fourth one is WebM or MKV. These are not really recommended. This is not supported on all devices. This is mainly a Chromebook thing. This is mainly a Google Drive type thing. And even then, sometimes Google Drive doesn't even recognize the file.
Yeah.
These things are really weird. They're super aggravating too.
Well, the reason that we bring them up is this, because a lot of times, like if you are recording a video on a Chromebook and then you wanted to try to edit it, you might run into the problem of your editing program may not understand the file because it's more native to that Chromebook or whatever the case may be. And so then you have to go into a bunch of conversions and things like that. So just kind of making you aware of that. But for the most part, when given the option, if it's audio only, you want to use MP3. If it's audio and video, you're using MP4. That's the way to kind of just keep that in mind. So hopefully, as we've kind of done all this techie talk today, if this is something that you've been considering or you're thinking about, hopefully this gives you some ideas of moving forward. And maybe you're like, well, the only thing I really want to deal with right now is my camera. I just want a better camera. Okay, well, boom, there you go. You've got some ideas to take, and you might find something better that you're like, you know what? I saw the one you said, but I like this one better. Then go for it. I mean, we are not paid by these people. This is just a little bit of research we did. And, this is not an affiliate link, so we don't get anything. So if you don't like it, that's cool. If you want to recommend something else, by all means, email us at info@teachbigger, and we'll put it out there and we'll share it with everybody, so that way we can kind of all help each other get some good gear. Last thing to consider, though, as we wrap up the program today, is just in general some things to keep in mind when it comes to delivering online content, and especially when it comes to video, right? The first thing is this, and Tyler and I talked a lot about this. You want to be careful that you don't allow your video to be the entire lesson, right? Like, I don't want the only thing my students do in a lesson is to watch a video of me. Like, that is not, there is a level of engagement there, but it's not the highest level, right? We want to get the kids involved. We want to have that interaction. We want them to be able to not sit and get, but to put it into practice and to actually do it. So in some of our previous episodes, we've talked about lesson design, and we've talked about an activity stream. And we've said, like, what are the activities that you're going to do that, one, are going to allow students to experience the content, but then also give you formative assessment so that you can understand what they're understanding. So definitely you want to keep that in mind. You want good video content, but really and truly, like, our recommendation is this: you don't want more than 5 minutes of it. Like, if you're going to do a video-based lesson, 5 minutes, we're done. Because I promise you, they're not watching anything longer than that on YouTube. And then they're flipping to something else, right? And that's what they're going to do to YouTube. They're going to flip it off.
And I would say that, like, if you want to have multiple 5-minute videos, I think that would be okay. But you don't want to play them one after another. I think at max I played 4 5-minute videos, 2 to 5 minute videos in my class. And they were all uniquely different. And it was like, okay, we watched this video, we discussed, and we did an activity. And then I was like, okay, now we're ready for the next thing. And we watched the next video, we discussed and had an activity, and things like that. And then when we were done with all of it, I actually gave like a short little in-class quiz to make sure that they retained the information.
Yeah. So keeping the video short, don't let it be the only thing that they do. Make sure they're doing some other things to engage with the content. And then it just comes down to, like, the nitty gritty of, you need to have a plan, especially like if you're going to do live, you need to have a plan of what that flow is going to be like. But even if you're doing flipped instruction and you have the ability to stop and fix or whatever, you don't want it to take you, 3 days to make a 5-minute video. So you get your plan, write it out, make a little script for yourself, whatever you've got to do, just to help you with that flow. So don't be afraid to plan it. Don't be afraid to make yourself some bullet points. I would not recommend making a script and reading it, okay? Unless there's no video at all, unless it's just audio, like you're doing it like a podcast style, then that would work, okay? But nobody wants to watch you read something. That's, honestly, it's quite awkward.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I would say don't freak out about being in front of the camera. The biggest thing that it comes to are like, oh, I've got to write a script. Well, you should be practicing your lesson and your lesson plans anyway. Like, you should be like, I don't know about you, but like when I'm at my desk and I'm like typing up my lesson plan, or like I'm working on a assignment, I am physically talking out loud to myself and pretending that I'm in front of the class already. And I'm saying, like, I'm acting as if I'm teaching them and I'm saying these things or whatever. Well, that's exactly what you're going to do with the video. So, you should already have like some type of script or some type of idea, because you're making this lesson. Now you're just going to do it inside of or in front of the camera. And a little pro tip: if you're really nervous in front of the camera, flip it around, have something so that way you can see yourself while you record, because looking at yourself while talking really eases, especially for me, like, it really eases my anxiety level. And like, it's way better than just looking at like this tiny little camera screen hole kind of thing, because it tricks me into thinking that I'm talking to a real person, even though it's just me.
I totally agree with that. And before I did that, I probably wouldn't have agreed with that. I probably would have been like, oh no, I don't want to see myself. But somehow I think you think you're way more ridiculous than you are. And I think when you actually see yourself, you kind of go, okay, I look okay. Or, maybe you do look really ridiculous and then you can fix it, But yeah. I think you kind of are at ease. You go like, okay, I actually do look sort of normal delivering this content. So I would agree with you on that, Tyler. I think that's a really good practice. So last thing is this. By all means, if you can, and I realize that occasionally this is appropriate, but don't only do PowerPoint style presentations where it's like your screen, you're clicking through a slideshow and they hear your voice. Like, that just, sometimes that's the only way you can get it done, because I realize maybe you have to be able to show things or graphics or whatever, but man, that's not very entertaining, right? We've got to be entertainers. Like, they're used to being entertained, and I'm not saying dumb down the content, but you've got to be engaging. You've got to be an entertainer, and you have to be compared, if you will, to the entertainers they see, right? So, I mean, this is no longer like 50s television, right? Like the days of Leave It to Beaver, as wholesome and great as they were, and I wish that they were still around, but that's not the content people are watching anymore. And so we have to step up our game, and we have to be a little more entertaining, engaging, edgy, fun, out there, outlandish, because they're used to big personalities. And we've got it in us. We're teachers. That's what teachers do.
Yeah. Yeah. My school always likes to remind us of the Ferris Bueller's Day Off. That teacher, who's like, "Thank you, Simone."
Right.
You know, that
exactly.
Like reminding us that like we don't want to be like that kind of deal. And like, I feel like a lot of educators, especially administration, when they record a video, that's exactly. Oh my God, I can't tell you how many administration videos I've seen or even edited. And it's like, you can't tell the administrator that they're boring. Like, it's hard for me. Like, you can't. So it's like, hello, today we are talking about engagement and what that might mean for your students.
Right.
Today on Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood.
Hey, now wait a minute.
Like, I mean,
don't knock Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers now. Come on.
Let's go.
Right. So look, here's what to keep in the back of your mind. Create the kind of lesson that you would want to watch. Right. And I can't tell you, I mean, even with us with the podcast, like I'll go, like we'll do something here or there, whatever. I'm like, I don't think I'd want to listen to this, and that's kind of our litmus test. Like we're trying to be the podcasters we would want to listen to. Be the teacher of online instruction that you would want to watch and learn from. And if you're not, then you got to make a change. Yeah.
The big takeaway from this is if the quality is better, it makes you look more professional and that you care more about your content that you're actually trying to give. Also, the students will be able to receive it better. They'll be able to receive it more clearly. There won't be any more questions, or hopefully there won't be any more questions of like, what is that smudge on the screen? Well, that smudge is like your answer. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
If you do not take your content, your video content seriously, then you can't really expect your students to take your videos very seriously either. You got to think of these that there are a whole bunch of pennies, okay? And 100 pennies make up $1. This is something I tell my students all the time, and they always laugh at me. Okay, now let's just consider and accept the fact that a $1 can buy you a bottle of water. I know it can't anymore, but let's just say that it can. And you have 99 cents, and you just ran a mile. Now that one extra penny just got a whole lot more valuable, right? And no one wants to carry around 100 pennies. Everybody wants to carry around a $1 bill. So all of these things that you're doing are pennies, and eventually you'll be able to cash them all in and condense them down into your standard of what your class is.
Yeah, that's good. So for those of you who are looking to step it up, I hope that we've given you at least one idea today of how you can make some improvements. If there are other things that you want to know about, or there's other ideas that you may have, or maybe there's something that you've done that really works for you, then by all means, let us know. You can email us at info@teachbigger.com. And hey, subscribe to the podcast. We release a new episode every Monday and Wednesday. So if you subscribe, it makes sure that you get the notification that you know that things are happening and things are coming out. And we don't want you to miss an episode. We're like so excited. We have people all over the world literally listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's so humbling and weird to think that like people are actually learning and like, I guess, kind of liking this because they're doing it. So, if you're enjoying what you're hearing or you have any suggestions, please engage with us. We want to hear from you. Email us again, like I said, at info@teachbigger.com. And also check out our YouTube videos. Our YouTube channel is Teach Bigger. You can also find it by typing in Teach Bigger Podcast. Either way, you'll find it. And we're starting to create content there. We're just getting started. So subscribe on that platform as well. So that way you can kind of support us there and we can start moving forward and doing more and more. So thanks for tuning in today, and we'll see you back next time.